20% of my suitcase was dedicated to an Nespresso machine, Wild West. Global scale knew deep in my heart that we are actually very interesting to them. In Southeast Asia, we're super busy, what we call a perfect mix, because we are in China for more than a decade, also with our product. So we've adapted to the Chinese technical landscape.
Thomas, thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate you have time.
Thank you for inviting me.
So you've been in China for quite some time already. So you're one of those who spent here few years and you have lots of experience. But I would love to start with the traditional question, actually, what brought you to China in the first place? And tell me more a little bit about your early days in China.
Sure, yeah. It's actually quite funny because the first time I came to China, I came with a Chinese friend, a long-time Chinese friend from Holland. I'm Dutch. And he always wanted me to show his birth country, his native country. So I joined him in mid-2010 on a trip basically all to China, but mainly because he needed to source materials for opening a new restaurant. So he was going to make a trip of 3.5 weeks through China, sourcing materials, and I was basically his buddy to join. So I came with him. We landed in Guangdong, and I was always very interested in China, so it was a unique opportunity for me to explore. I spent like probably a small week with him in Guangdong area, going to all kinds of factories and stuff where he would source his materials. But I also had my own goal to explore China a little bit more, especially the business climate. So I booked some trips and tried to get some meetings all over China, Beijing, Shanghai, Tianjin, Shenzhen, also Hong Kong. So that's what I did basically in the middle of that trip, and I got very excited about China. Also found locations that were not that attractive to me, especially the feeling I got in Beijing and the feeling I got in Hong Kong didn't match my business interest. Although I liked the places on a personal level, I couldn't find a match with business. So I immediately found out that business climates were very different from each other. And it might be coincidence or luck, but my last trip in the last week was actually Shanghai. And I don't know, when I arrived in Shanghai, I immediately knew, like, wow, this is the place. I see a lot of opportunity, a vibe, positive energy. Could meet a lot of people that had the same vibe and energy to build new stuff. So yeah, I actually, on the first night I arrived in Shanghai, I knew deep in my heart that I wanted to permanently go to China, and especially Shanghai. So I think after I came back to Holland, it took only 2 months to wrap everything up in Europe, in Holland, and move to China. So at the end of 2010, in the fourth quarter, I arrived with a suitcase and a coffee machine, and I started my venture here, because in 2010 getting coffee was still quite a challenge. So 20% of my suitcase was dedicated to an Nespresso machine to have the necessity coffee during the day. But yeah, it was quite challenging and exciting. But the Q4 2010, I moved to China.
So it's been already a decade.
Yeah, it's been 12 years
12
now.
years.
Yeah, 12 years now.
Over a decade.
And yeah.
And now definitely we have no problem with the coffee, especially here in Shanghai, right? One of the places where you can see coffee shops pretty much everywhere.
Yes.
So there are quite a few projects that keep you busy. So can you tell a little bit more, what are they, what do you do here in China?
So in the recent years, basically I have a software product, SaaS product, and I have a local development team, local meaning based in China. And for the past decade, we've been building and adapting the product that I brought to China to tailor to the Chinese environment, basically. And it's, as you know, China is developing each and every day, so that means that our product also keeps innovating, needs to be innovative. And my day during a typical work week is I spend half of the time listening and looking at the challenges my customers face, converting that into a business objective, especially for the product, and try to fit that into short or long-term product development planning. The rest of the week I'm busy with replying to our partners. We work mainly through partners that come with challenges of their customers and looking for a solution in our product. So it's mainly pre-sales, demoing, explaining, and finally, hopefully, obviously, making quotes and implementing the product for the project.
Mm-hmm. So what are the names of the projects that you work on? So you have the company which is Livecom?
Yes. So my main business is Livecom. It's a customer service platform. So brands utilize that platform to deliver customer service to their customers. It's not that we deliver the customer service. They often deliver the customer service themselves by their own people, or they outsource it to a kind of a call center kind of environment. The other part that I'm busy with is conversational AI, that is Evo Creations, where we developed a platform to connect multiple AI providers through Livecom to different communication channels to optimize customer service procedures that actually could be done by an automated procedure or a bot, if you like to call it that way.
You mentioned challenges, and then you also mentioned customer service, right? So the customer service is at the center of your business activities.
Yes.
And I'm just curious to know about the challenges that your clients have, and if those challenges are the same that customers here in China experience and clients from the West.
No, I would say that the climate in China is very different from the climate in the West. So the challenges my customers face are not the same. A typical project in China is first of all explaining, often a foreign IT team or foreign management team is involved. So part of not only selling your solution but making clear that your solution is unique is explaining why we are different than, for instance, a local vendor or a truly foreign vendor. We are basically in what we call a perfect mix, because we are in China for more than a decade, also with our product, so we've adapted to the Chinese technical landscape, which very obvious is mini programs, WeChat, all kinds of e-commerce platforms that are unique to China's infrastructure, IT infrastructure. And explaining to them that even though some foreign vendors will announce or market that they have integrations to Chinese platforms, they actually don't have a legal entity here, which especially in the most recent years is pretty important, because as a brand or as a company you need to comply with the privacy law, technical law, data storage laws, etc., etc. Not forgetting to mention there is a firewall in place that filters certain information for China, which gives challenges and all kinds of connections to outside systems that typically a foreign brand would need. As we are right in the middle, we have local Chinese people that understand the local situation very well. We also have, and personally I have a lot of experience working with MNCs globally and understand their challenges and infrastructure.
And also I'm quite curious to know a little bit more about the portfolio of the clients, because I've talked to many people, right? And over the past years, the business environment is quite different, it's changing. And before, let's say, some companies were focusing mostly on MNCs, but now transitioning the focus on local companies. So what about your situation? Where do you see it's going?
Well, obviously, because China is closed in the past 3 years, basically, the landscape for us changed more to Hong Kong. There were a lot of projects that we did there in the past 2 years. And I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, that was 2020, when the first lockdowns arose, especially in China, which were, compared to the West, pretty hard. We needed to move some new projects into the cloud, so basically facilitate working from home. People couldn't go to offices or the call centers, and some brands utilized some old on-premise technology which was not accessible during that time. So we facilitated them moving to a cloud-based system. For the rest, we haven't seen many brands entering China in the past 3 years during the pandemic. Some did, some were very successful also, actually. But personally, I've not seen a major shift to local companies more than before. I would say for the local companies, we are similar kind of vendor. We're still a foreign vendor. That means that some customers would not like to work with you because you're foreign. They prefer to be a local, to have a local vendor. But if that Chinese company has an outlook to the West, or their products are mainly sold in the West, we are actually very interesting to them, because we totally immediately understand the outside IT infrastructure, and actually we are the only vendor inside China that offers in customer service communication channels like Facebook, Telegram, etc. All those platforms that are not available in China, we have integrations already to them. And there's no Chinese local vendor that would have that, because it's not interesting for a local vendor to have that.
So you already mentioned about the COVID and about some changes, right? I just want to hear a little bit more about what kind of changes in general COVID brought specifically to customer service, probably not in China, on the global scale.
Yeah, global scale, it forced the call centers. We are not a call center, we are a platform deliverer, but especially the call centers that have employed the humans, they really needed to move fastly on moving out their IT infrastructure from a physical location to a cloud-based solution. So all the vendors like us, platform solution providers, the ones that were more traditionally based, all suddenly needed to move to a cloud-based solution. We've always been cloud-based. I made a decision already many years ago that technically on-premise is not a solution you like. There might be legal implications or storage of data that would like you to have it in some, not in the cloud, let's say it like that. But typically, for most of customers, a cloud-based solution is totally fine and acceptable. So the vendors that and the companies that didn't have a cloud-based solution needed to move fast, and that was challenging, especially in the beginning, because everybody was in lockdown, even their own IT, so they couldn't even go on-premise to shut something off or shut something or turn something on. And we had some, I can't mention names, but we had quite big, huge companies having issues with that, and where their customer service operation basically was shut down completely, and they couldn't offer any communication channel during the first lockdowns. As we were cloud-based, we could just remotely log in from home and create customer service environments for them, and where their agents were able to log in from their homes, respectively.
Also, it's quite interesting to hear as well, because right now technology is pretty much everywhere, right? It's been already for quite some time, disrupting the industries. So what's specifically happening in the customer service area in terms of technology, and how do you think the future will look like 5 years from now?
Yeah, what you see is that more and more consumers definitely want to move to messaging-based systems. As email was not existing in China, not even in 2010, not for business to consumer communication, maybe for marketing, but not for customer service. It was already online, so it was either typically in 2010 it was basically websites. It more moved to WeChat since 2014, official accounts and messaging. And you see now that messaging is getting, the volume in messaging is getting more and more, and telephony, which is in channels is the biggest competitor to messaging, is declining strongly. So people prefer to send a message instead of calling and being on the phone, waiting in the queue, going through IVR choices. They don't like that. For the future, I think conversational AI will be utilized more and more. That means procedures that are repetitive for a human and basically boring, and like canceling an order, updating the delivery address, that kind of procedures, that manual labor can easily be replaced with typically a good AI and training on top of that. So AI, artificial intelligence, basically that whole procedure can be done by a routine that consumers do themselves. And I see companies investing more and more in this kind of technology to offload work of their human agents.
Yeah, the conversational, it was great sharing from you as well earlier at the Founders Breakfast. So hopefully we also can put the link over there so people can learn a little bit more about that topic. And also based on your experience that you've been here already over a decade, and definitely we already talked a little bit about the challenges as the foreign company. So if we can expand a little bit more on that topic, how business environment changed in the past 5-10 years, and what are the challenges specifically that you are facing at the moment?
So when I arrived here, it was basically, everybody that has been here for more than a decade would say it used to be kind of the Wild West, not that rough, but a lot of things were possible. But obviously China is a strong and fast developing country, so that means regulations also develop, because that's part of a developing country, right? So in the past 10 years there has been a lot of new laws, because they didn't exist before, in data storage, privacy, all kinds of compliance you need to have as a cloud vendor. And I would say it's more strict than in Europe. I don't think many people realize that, especially in the West, they think that China doesn't have privacy at all. But actually, privacy laws here are much stronger than in the West. Even now, WeChat recently, or a couple of months ago, had some changes where you, as a brand, cannot even get the name of the consumer you're chatting with. So basically, it's all anonymous, and the consumer needs to give consent to share any information, even his name. Which used to be, you used to get the name and the sex and the location and the province, etc. That's all been taken away from the brands and the data platforms in the past couple of years. Where do I see that go? I guess this will keep on going for quite some time. I don't think they will open up more data projects. They will try to containerize and close access to personal identifiable information more and more. So that's a challenge for a vendor as us. We do need to comply more and more to regulations on your cloud system, security, used technology, this will be audited every year, and or you need to be audited every year in order to receive the necessary certifications.
Mm-hmm. So those are the challenges that definitely I also can relate, and I guess lots of businesses facing similar challenges at the moment. Where do you see the opportunities? Which areas are still quite attractive, or areas that are going to be growing, let's say, in the near future?
Personally, I think the Chinese economy is the one set for huge growth, and still for the next 10 to 15 years. Even in these challenging times, I think China is the only country that has enough power to realize things. Even during this challenging time in the past 3 years, where the economy obviously took a hit, especially in retail and in the food and beverage and these kinds of areas. If you look from a helicopter view, a broader perspective, and you see the investments they do in infrastructure, developing highways, airports, cities, urbanization, it is massive and unprecedented. And I think the examples of the result of these kinds of investments have always been positive for economies. So if people can move around more easy, there will be growth in economy, and that's what I see especially in the past 3 years. China has been, rolling out so much high-speed railway, highways, infrastructure. This only can result in a positive turnaround for the economy. So I am very, very positive personally in the long-term growth of China, and I'm sure there are many businesses that want to, enter this economy. So for us, I'm not afraid at all. And you see it locally, in even in Shanghai here too. We had a big hit during the lockdown earlier this year. Most of us had a minimum of 60 days and nothing at all. A lot of small businesses disappeared, but you see them coming back. I mean, these are other businesses, so that means the money and the people are still, China is very big, and Shanghai is just 25 million, maybe 30 million people. There are still many more people outside seeing opportunity to be in the strongest economy of the world, I would even say. Yeah. So there's going to be the same opportunities that were here before, but we do obviously need to kind of more open up, and yeah, let's hope that can happen in 2023.
You mentioned about the long-term thinking, right? I think this is the one thing that I've been hearing as well for a long time, that China is definitely the country that you need to approach with the long-term thinking.
Yes.
Right? So nothing
Yes.
happens super fast. I think the time of when we had lots of opportunities and lots of things going on overnight,
Yes.
I guess already passed, right? And to wrap it up, I would love to ask you the last question, and I'm just curious, what couple of projects that you are the most excited about at the moment that you're working on? If it's possible to share, of course. Maybe not telling the name of the company.
Yeah, well, I'm most excited. It's a couple of months ago, during our lockdown of 60 days, where most of the people had nothing to do. We were actually super busy because Hong Kong was opening up and implementing a lot of support for the local economy and the local residents. And they needed online platforms to communicate to their basically residents. So in that time we had a certification going on from the Hong Kong government and auditors checking our systems to see if it was compliant enough for Hong Kong government. So we were very busy, and we delivered those projects closely after the Shanghai lockdown. So that was June, July, not too long ago. And currently we are mainly working with a lot of projects in Southeast Asia, where the economies are restarting again, and where people and companies seeing a raise in volume of transactions, and also customer service, where new platforms need to be implemented. So currently we are mostly busy with new business outside mainland China, and here it's still waiting for us to restart, and it's just maintaining the current infrastructure.
I also been hearing a lot about Southeast Asia, right? And there are lots of activities going on now, and lots of companies based in Shanghai, in China, looking at that direction. Probably that is another time to discuss this, right?
we can make a new video about that.
A new
yes.
video. It's a big topic, and
Yes.
I think it's growing, right? So it's
Yes, for
definitely
sure.
exciting and interesting to look at. But thank you so much for the introducing,
Thank
for
you.
the sharing.
Thank
It's
you.
super interesting, super helpful, and I look forward to your expansion to Southeast Asia, and then probably in half a year or time or so we can get another one.
Great.
And,
Love to be back.
Hear your stories from Southeast Asia. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting
was
me.
The episode Between Meetings. Please like, share, comment, and we see you next time.